All right, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2019. I'm glad that you guys can join us tonight. We are finally starting to get back a little bit to normal here. Mari has put all the links back onto the website, like how we were doing it before we moved our headquarters, so to speak. So now the way we did it before was that we have basically we're putting the links into the description, but not in a form that we're used to, where you usually watch a YouTube video and you've got links to the articles and it's in the YouTube description box. But we decided to make people come on over to our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. So, and why is that? The website's still in the making. We have a vision with what we want out of this website. Sorry about that. My microphone's kind of messing up. I'm just adjusting the volumes here. Okay, here we go. So what I was saying is that we're still rebuilding the website. Mari has started the foundation of the Grand Solar Minimum and the education of it. One of my favorite parts is the login session. If you don't have a membership, it's free. Don't worry. You register here. I'll go ahead and get out the handy dandy arrow. Register at this, click on that link, follow a couple instructions, and boom, you're a part of the website. Now you can use our website like a social media platform such as Facebook or Twitter. We already have a few members in place. Do we use it regularly? Unfortunately, no. We're still trying to get that lifted off the ground, but I thought I'd start talking about it a lot more since we're kind of getting back to normal. And I just want folks to know that there's resources they can use on this website as well. The glossary, Mari is still working this out, but this is, to me, this is brilliant stuff. And we're bringing on a guy, Scott Chapman, on Saturday, and we're going to go through his presentation. He has a website, and he is also putting together the basically timeline, the how-to of Grand Solar Minimum, what to do. But Mari has started that as well. Work in progress, layers of the Earth's atmosphere, the sun's atmosphere, exosphere, red light, H alpha, ionosphere. So the glossary, as you see, has a lot of blanks, but there are also a lot of things that have already been added. Let's go basic here. Sunspots, what are they? And there's the link. Oh, you gotta wait for the website. Sorry about that, guys. So I click on it, and this is what Mari puts for it. Actually, this is the work of the Starman. And again, we have people that are outside this channel that work for us, that help us out. And when I say work, it may be just describing something for us in an email or writing up articles like this. This is by the TSM Solar Observations, formerly known as Starman, but gives us a brief description of sunspots, what they are. Basic 101 stuff. So a lot of you that are new, this website is just the beginning. It doesn't have everything finished, but there is enough that Mari has put in place that will help you understand what some of these terminologies and things like that are when you hear us talking in our broadcast. Space weather, space stuff, global weather. A lot of these parts of the website we haven't been good at keeping up with current events, but like I said, we've relocated. We're starting to settle back in. Tonight, Mari, we're going to start using our website once again. Here we go. Crops report, a bunch of links to other things we can look at. Volcanoes and earthquakes. We have tons of links to check out what's happening on that side. And then, of course, the register, log in if you're already a member. And, I would log in, but I don't know if it's my profile or not. So let's not even bother right now. But anyway, I will do a future show where I will show you guys, I'll already be logged in, and I'll show you guys how to post and make messages and all that. It's just like Facebook. It literally is just like Facebook, except it's on the grandsolarminimum.com. All right, so let's go back home. Live show. section here and get on with the show, shall we? I've babbled on, just kind of excited. I feel like I'm at home now whenever we get to do things the way we used to do it. And I really appreciate having the website, the platform that we have here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. So let's get started, shall we? Let's start with some space weather. Our solar wind speeds are sitting at 481.8 kilometers per second with a density of 6.8. Let's go over to spaceweather.com real quick, and we haven't seen storm conditions. We did get as high as a 4, a G, as far as KP indice of 4, but really the only thing that we were expecting with today's incoming solar wind was just the the solar wind reaching around the 500 kilometers per second, and I had seen reports earlier of those readings as well. All right, let's go to the space weather section of grandsolarminimum.com. There you see the KP indices staying right around 3, and briefly early May 2nd, we saw KP indices reach the 4 category, but never quite pushed the threshold of a G1 storm. Now, the sun is blank once again. That's now 71 days in 2019. We're at 60% of 2019 without sunspots. 2018 ended with 61%. So just wanted to kind of point that out. And I say this because, well, here's a look at the SDO in motion. We see a very small coronal hole forming just to, well, actually right at the equatorial region. Nothing really to be worried about. These aren't the kind of coronal holes that cause G1 storms. This might be just a little ping on the magnetic field, and that's about it. Now, we do look out here to the farther part of the sun here in the eastern limb. And I want to point out this right here. Now, the last broadcast I did, this was a little more impressive on the backside around the negative 180 mark of that active region. And now we look at it here. There it is, getting ready to come around. That region has definitely, as far as output goes, that is a lot lower than what we were seeing the last time we were live, which was just a few days ago. So I don't even know if this will even be a sunspot coming around. This has made it around, I think, 3 times as a really decent sized sunspot. So I know you guys think that this part right here looks impressive, but trust me, this was much, much more intense just a few days ago. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that, as we've already had, I think right now, we're 11 days straight without a sunspot. And I misspoke, we're at 73 days without a sunspot for 2019. So we'll keep a look, we'll keep an eye on this and see what happens if that region becomes another sunspot or not. We'll see. Taking a look at our TSI, total solar radiance. And remember, folks, the TSI is the output of what the sun is basically. This is the output of the sun. Right now we're sitting at 1360.62. We saw the dip a few days ago back on April 13th. Pardon me. And we saw a reading of 1360.29. So we dipped a little bit down further than we probably had seen in quite some time. But TSM Solar Observations, actually that night spoke with me, and I mean, he was already on the ball like usually, and TSI did recover back into the 1360.6 values like he expected as well. So, all right, so let's get into the world news of the Grand Solar Minimum, and we'll start with the watchers. As always, they have a lot of headlines, but here they want to talk about several locations broke or tied their record for the most number of days in a month with measurable precipitation. A few places set records for most days in any month. Boston, Bridgeport, Concord, Hartford, Islip, Manchester are just some of them. Here we go. Boston, Massachusetts had at least 0.01 accumulation for 21 days. The old record was 19, set back in 1912. Let's see what the oldest one. Right now, that might be the oldest record that was broke. Boston, Massachusetts. I also want to point out, too, I heard a lot of people talking about the snow in Boston, but Bridgeport, Connecticut had 19 days, broke its record. Now, by the way, that was only a 2-day record it broke. But here in Bridgeport, they smashed it by 3. And I say smashed because these are not big records that are blown away here. So 3 days is quite significant. In 1878, a record of 17 was set in Concord. That was broke as of April. And that was 21 days of measurable precipitation on the ground. Manchester, New Hampshire, 17 days in 1936 was the record. They beat it by 1 with 18. You guys can continue to read on for yourselves. Just some, and just living out here myself in the Northeast, here upstate New York, there has been quite a bit of moisture, I would say, that flows through here in the Northeast. Think about it. We get the tail end of all the major winter storms that came across the nation. The way the jet stream is, everything kind of rides right up into the Northeast and into Nova Scotia. So we've seen our share of precipitation when it comes to snow and rain this year already. But reading on here, oh, that's it. That was the end. I like how Watchers.news kind of tricks you into other headlines that could be a part of what you want to talk about, but it's not. So just a quick mention here on the Watchers to tell us some more records were broke, and it's precipitation. And I know I sound like a broken record, but you know what I'm going to say. Why all this precipitation? Well, true, there's water vapor, but without particles, you don't have raindrops. And with cosmic rays seeding our atmosphere, basically energizing supercharged and regular particles, and that's why we're seeing these gigantic totals of rainfalls in 24 hours in parts of the world, which I'm sure we'll get to here just in a quick hot second here. Let's talk about the central United States here. Nothing funny about this, though. 33 tornadoes reported as violent storms swept across central U.S. Severe weather continues. Several damaging tornadoes were reported across the region, as well as heavy rain. A week's worth just in several hours in Oklahoma. That's not surprising. We were just talking about that. There we go. So right off the bat, we get into the show, and we're already talking about several inches of rain in just a short period of time. A slow-moving and elongated front from Texas to the Ohio Valley will continue to produce areas of severe thunderstorms, damaging winds, and large hail. Heavy to excessive rainfall, possible flooding over the next couple of days, warns the National Weather System. Or the service, I should say. I'm having a great start tonight, guys. Stay tuned. An active pattern of weather is forecast to continue through the end of the week from the southern plains into the Midwest and Ohio Valley along a nearly stationary frontal boundary. Now, I was talking about this the last 2 broadcasts. I mentioned this about Texas around May 3rd. We were going to see some kind of stationary front begin and continue, and there it is right there. That's into the 4th, Saturday. And finally, that system rolls out by the 4th, but then we get more action, and as close as these 2 storms are here between the 7th and the 8th, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just pointing this out real quick. It literally feels like that we're going to be getting dumped on here in central Texas for the next 3 to 4 days. But let's continue to read on. Active weather pattern, we already said that. Multiple waves of low pressure are expected to form along this boundary, and these are expected to produce mesoscale convective complexes with enhanced rainfall. Numerous showers and storms are expected to continue regenerating the vicinity of this front, with the best prospects for heavy rainfall from central Texas, I just said that, to southern Illinois, with amounts in the order of 2 to 4 inches likely for some area. Again, 2 to 4 inches of rain is a month's worth of rain for most people in the United States. At least a month's worth. And this is going to fall in just a day or so. There's a slight risk of excessive rainfall across parts of these areas where the threat of flash flooding is greatest over the next couple of days. Some severe storms will also be possible, with best prospects across Texas, Ohio Valley, based on the latest SPC forecast. The frontal boundary should slowly progress southward on Friday, but heavy rainfall will continue to be a threat across parts of central eastern Texas. And these videos I would show you, but this gentleman here says not for broadcast. So you can check it out in our links. This YouTube from Weather Nation. Here is just a tornado wandering around. This is probably the safest tornado footage we have for the day. And if we're going to make any jokes, it's going to be on this footage and this footage only. One of the areas hit hardest by tornado Tuesday night was in and around the Waterford subdivision in Ozark. Around 100 homes suffered some kind of damage. 24 had more severe damage. But 33 tornadoes. Guys, last year in 2018, we had a record low amount of tornadoes. And we were talking about how we didn't have any I think it was F3 and higher, or F4 and higher of tornadoes last year in 2018. We've already flirted with a couple strong ones already. All right, so let's continue on here. At least 5 killed, 61 injured as severe dust storm sweeps through Iraq. Here we go. Southern provinces of Najaf and Karbala were hit the hardest. At least 4 civilians were killed and 61 others were injured, health ministry spokesman said. The health dictator Najaf said 1 person was killed in the province and 20 others injured due to downed trees and collapsed walls. Let's see what this footage looks like here, guys. I'm getting a chance. You know, when you think dust storm, you know, it's amazing to look at these things from outside of the storm. It just looks like a gigantic wall cloud moving about 2 miles an hour. Insane. So it's not quite as, not really exciting to watch, but it looks like a giant avalanche slowly moving towards you. You know, avalanches are another one that move really slow, but can be very dangerous as well. We'll leave the link on our website as well. This is probably more footage of this, a little bit further out. Terrible sound. Sorry about that. There we go. We don't need that. Again, it just looks like everything is in a plume of smoke, like as if it was on fire. All right. So now we want to talk about a tropical low over the Bahamas, and it is heading towards Florida. Once again, thank you to the Watchers.news. Says here, a trough of low pressure located over the northwestern Bahamas producing disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. The system is heading towards Florida and threatening the state with locally heavy rains. So another part of the region here, the south, will look at a chance for some heavy rains over the next couple of days. While little development is expected during the next couple of days as the system moves generally northwestward toward the Florida Peninsula, some slow development is possible as disturbance turns northeastward and moves over the western Atlantic, says the National Weather Service Hurricane Center. Regardless of its development, locally heavy rains are possible over portions of the Bahamas and the Florida Peninsula during the next couple of days. Seas are currently reaching about 8 feet northeast of the Bahamas. And here we have the precipitation levels. Again, the south, the deep south, getting more rain from its inland systems than this disturbance here in the Bahamas. But we do see how it just kind of hovers over Florida for a couple of days. So they do get heavy to moderate to heavy amounts of rain in the next several hours here in Florida. So we will be keeping our eyes on that region as well. And this is an accumulation here. It looks like all the way out through this weekend. You know, we're talking the purple amounts here in Texas. That's because we've literally had a weather front just kind of stay stationary in that region. We'll talk more about this as we continue our show. Let's close that. Somebody's live. I guess they're trying to. It's Ret Week, so there's a lot of jokers out there tonight. All right, so let's give you an update. Unfortunately, now the death toll hits 41 and 169,000 affected as Tropical Cyclone Kenneth hits Mozambique. Says here, Tropical Cyclone Kenneth continued to batter parts of Mozambique with heavy rains. The storm made landfall April 25th with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles an hour. That's a Cat 4. The first such cyclone to hit the Providence since records began 60 years ago. Kenneth is the second powerful storm to hit the Southeast Africa in 6 weeks. It made landfall as the country was still struggling with the aftermath of Cyclone Idai, which hit a little further south. Cyclone Kenneth made landfall at the end of a rainy season when rivers levels were already high. So let me repeat that. We are at the end of the rainy season, and we're getting this nasty 1-2 punch. So continuing to monitor that area, according to the National Disaster Management Institute of Mozambique, as of April 29, 38 people were dead and 39 were injured. 20,000 were sheltered in 30 accommodation centers, putting the total around 169,000 people affected by this event. And on May 1st, the death toll did rise another 3 more people to 41 total dead. 34,000, over almost 35,000 buildings are damaged or destroyed. 2,900 are totally destroyed, and 32,000 were partially destroyed. Several areas of Pemba, the capital of northern province of Cabo Delgado, were completely flooded. In the most deprived areas, houses had collapsed and flash floods left mud and debris all over the streets. Children are not at present attending schools, and school buildings are being used as shelters. Many families have lost all of their property, including plantations and livestock. Again, you never know the perspective of loss until you read things like this. These homes are destroyed, mud everywhere, crops have been lost, 169,000 people. I mean, this is not like that, you know, their government's sending over a bunch of dump trucks right now to help clean up this mess. We don't see a team of people with chainsaws and equipment heading out here cleaning this up right away. These people don't have that convenience. This is absolute disaster right here. And now you got to think about people's well-being on top of the fact that crops are now suffering or gone. Livestock are now suffering or gone. And even if they've survived the storm, how long do they stay alive? Are we able to take care of these livestock animals properly in the coming days, as you have to start wondering about supplies for your own people? This water doesn't look to be receding anytime soon. And once it does finally go away, you're talking massive amounts of damage to homes, indoors. Everything's been ruined. So total loss in these areas that have standing water like this. The heavy rains following Cyclone Kenneth, which hit the northern part of the country 5 days ago, have paused around Pemba, and aid workers are working fast as they can to prepare flights to deliver aid. So we don't even have aid there yet. They had 14 days of supply before this storm, and that was over 7 days ago. So we haven't had flights in yet, and our supplies are starting to run down, and that was for 140,000 people. He also said that the pause in rains is just temporary, as aid workers will also do further damage and needs assessments while they can, as more rain is expected in the coming days, turning the response into a start-stop operation. Many families have lost all their property, including plantations, where he said that. Charlie Yaxley from the UN Refugee Agency reported that their team in the area was evaluating the needs of communities in the aftermath of the storm, nothing that assistance is on its way. So this is even more dire need right now. Nonetheless, people still need shelter, food, water supplies, as well as utensils such as plates, pans, forks, spoons, and knives. Women who are also asking for hygiene kits. He noted the comprehensive help was needed in Pemba as a number of houses are damaged and will need repairing. The World Food Program has reached 11,500 beneficiaries with food assistance since Cyclone Kenneth first hit northern province Cabo Delgado, and continues emergency efforts to reach more people. Just absolutely tragic out here, and some serious issues that we are about to see in this region if we don't get a lot of help out here really fast. Thanks again to Watchers.news for excellent coverage. Not done yet. This story was actually from April. Some of these are a little old. This storm was dated on the 1st of May, but was reported on April 29th. A severe hailstorm struck, here we go, Pakahara, Nepal on Monday, April 29th, 2019. The rampage lasted for a half an hour and damaged the crop worth millions of rupees planted by farmers in the Pakahara metropolitan city. Besides that, golf ball-sized hailstones destroyed vehicles and windshields in a half hour during this downpour. Let's see what kind of footage we got here. Wow. Can't imagine too many windshields survive that. Just more of the rain than the hail. See it battering down, tearing leaves off the trees already, accumulating now, as if it's snowing at some point. Check out more of this on watchers.news. The downpour inflicted heavy damage to crops in Kaskiak. And, yeah. How about Dicker Potpourri, I think. I'm not sure about that city. Sorry, guys. Bahadori, Sarangak, Pumdin Humdi, Himja, Mel Patinton, Masbar, Pasang, Cherapatin, Christie, Lamachor, Jahumpus, Dihadal, and among others, many, many other cities that I butchered and will continue to butcher. Again, this was substantial damage to the crops. And just another story, another headline of a region of this planet that's seeing massive hail, lots of it accumulating, flash flooding, crop damage. Nepal jumps into the action and contributes to its unfortunate loss of crops that we have seen across the world now, not just here in the United States, all over the world. All right, guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so let's get I got a couple of articles here before we get into the weather report tonight. And the weather I kind of cheated with a little bit because we had to talk about Texas and all the severe weather and the tornadoes that we got down there. So that had to make the headlines at least twice tonight. But let's talk about Democrats push climate action now bill. Okay. So here we have a black screen that will show us. There we go. So I'm going to read a little bit about this. And then I have another one that kind of goes with this as well. Not really goes with it, but another Democrat has an action. The Democrat-controlled House of Representatives is set to pass Climate Action Now bill, which seeks to prevent the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and requires President Trump to prepare an annual report on compliance with Paris goals. Yeah, I'd like to see you guys force that one. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say, guys, as long as Donald Trump is the president of the United States, we won't be participating in any Paris Climate Action Treaty anymore. That is plain and simple. The person that signed this deal did not have the interest of the U.S. people in mind, because if the Obama administration cared about the pockets of us taxpayers, he would have never signed this bill. Many of you don't know that the United States, Japan, and I think Germany was the other nation, was to carry that $181 billion bill, basically. There's a bill that has to be paid every year. And these countries, the United States, Germany, Japan, and I think there was another one I just don't remember off the top of my head, but all these countries throw into the pot. Well, guess who was throwing in the most money in the pot but wasn't receiving any? That's right, us. The United States. U.S. tax dollars designated for a fund to spread out across the globe for people who are fighting climate change because of the belief of this treaty that states that man-made climate change is real. So You're getting robbed at the gas pump when you pay carbon taxes on gas. Okay? You're getting robbed in the grocery stores when the fuel costs more money and continues to go up, and the farmers have to spend more money to harvest their fields and plow their fields, and the truckers have to charge more money to bring the food, and the grocery stores have to charge more money for the food because the owners of the corporations aren't going to certainly dish out the extra money. I mean, come on, let's get real. So, anyway, Paris deal, obviously it was a bad deal. All right, let's move on. The bill to honor Paris Agreement goals could be the first climate legislation to pass the White House this year. I'm sorry, the House this year, but it won't pass the Senate. And it won't, and even if it does, President Trump is not signing this bill. This bill is going nowhere. This is a waste of time. I don't understand why these clowns in office can't find common ground interest and act on those for a change. And then this stuff right here, this gets put on the back burner, and let's try to make a look. We all know here at this channel, Grand Solar Minimum, that there is no such thing as man-made climate change. So all of this taxation of CO2 and emissions and taxations on, you know, plastic straws and stuff like that, it's all a lie. If they had the mindset of coming out and telling people that we are doing these green policies to help the breathing air and the drinking water, I don't think anybody would have, and they can't sensationalize it. They can't say we have 12 years of the world is ending. So if Democrats and Republicans said, you know what, let's do this. Let's do things that will help keep pollution in our breathing air and drinking water down. Let's take the foot off the pedal because there is no climate crisis, so to speak, that man is causing. And even if there was a climate crisis, we all know that it's nature and nothing is going to stop that. So instead of just taking the money and basing it on a lie, there are real things that we could actually do with this money and help with carbon capture and keeping our rivers pollution free and our air breathable and non-polluted. Those are the things that really matter. But as far as spending trillions of dollars to fight global warming or fight climate change, it's an insult to all of our intelligence. And the people who have fallen for this and are really hardcore believers in it, then we hope maybe that there's some, like a channel like mine or other channels in the community that speaks to you somehow and you see the clear science. You'll see. If you're not a follower of this channel, let's say you are AGW, you believe in the CO2 theory, and you start to watch this channel, just let's pretend those people actually exist. You're open-minded and you want to learn. And then you start to see the science correlation to everything. And then you have that aha moment. You'll understand that people who don't believe in the CO2 theory are not science deniers. It's the actual opposite. There's way more scientific theory and evidence to what we're talking about right now versus what Noah and other folks like Al Gore and the IPCC and all of these corrupt people out there who continue to cook the books for the numbers to meet the agenda so they can continue to get millions, billions really, of funding, federal grants from the United States government. You, the taxpayer, are paying for the biggest hoax ever to be played on its people in the entire world. Not just here in the United States, but the world. This week, the House of Representatives set to vote on a new resolution aimed at mitigating the impacts of President Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. The bill is known as Climate Action Now, would functionally reinstate the United States. Thank you for doing that. Did not mean that. Here we go. The bill prohibits the Trump administration from using federal funds to withdraw from the agreement. Second, the bill would require Trump to develop a plan updated annually for the U.S. to meet its contributions to the agreement, including greenhouse gas emission cuts by 26 to 2.8% below 2005 levels by 2025. And require that Trump administration work to ensure that other parties to the agreement are fulfilling their contributions. Folks, okay, the problem with that paragraph that I just read you, cooling is a decadal situation. We don't see it in a couple of years. We see it by the decades. And as it continues to cool, all right, the warm temperatures, once we are starting to cool down, all that CO2 in the oceans is being released into the atmosphere. First and foremost. During solar minimums and grand solar minimums, we see an increase of seismic activity and volcano activity. Obviously, the volcanic activity is spewing out ash 20 to 40,000 feet in the atmosphere. That's a problem. But you're probably asking yourself, well, what does an earthquake do to CO2? There's natural concentration amounts of CO2 released from the ground during a major earthquake. So we have contributions of CO2 from temperatures in the ocean. We have contributions from earthquakes. We have contributions from volcanoes. Those are the three main drivers of the CO2. The United States led the way this year, negative 2.8%. So in other words, we were down 2.8% in CO2, man-made CO2 emissions. Now that's a lot, guys. Those of you who know how this works, man-made emissions equivalent to the impact of the climate by about 0.00433. Not even 0.5%. So if man's emissions don't even accumulate for 0.5% of the CO2 that's already in the atmosphere, how does that control temperature? I've already shown you guys charts where we've seen CO2 levels back in 2016 right around the 402 mark, 402 parts per million. And in just a few years, we're at a record high of 412 parts per million on the CO2, but the temperature has dropped 0.5 degrees Celsius over the last 3 years. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. So now the Democrats are trying to force the hand of the President of the United States. This was a slow news day. They need to post an article. None of this is going to happen. That's why I'm saying this was a slow news day. This was a waste of a story. Eric, I love you. You do great work. I'm not saying this is garbage, but let's face it. Even if it passes the Senate, President Trump will veto this bill. This bill will never see the light of day. And thank God. And for those of you out there who agree with the message of the Grand Solar Minimum community, but hate Trump, that's a tough one, guys. Because if it wasn't for him, people like Pelosi would have her way and tax the hell out of you. And your gas prices would be $5 a gallon. And they're making these impossible 0 emissions in 12 years claims. But now, hold the phone now. Beto has a better plan. Okay? So Beto supports AOC's new Green Deal, right? Well, here Beto wants to roll out his own climate change plan. Now, according to AOC, we have 12 years to reduce our CO2 emissions to an astounding level, or we will die. The world will be over in 12 years because of climate chaos, according to AOC. Many Democrats have jumped on board with this Green New Deal, including this man right here, Beto. Democrat presidential primary candidate Beto O'Rourke is hoping you'll find the $5 trillion cost of his Green New Deal light more palatable than the $93 trillion cost of AOC's deal. He plans to invest $5 trillion over the next 10 years in infrastructure, innovation, and also set goals to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Well, hold the phone. Won't we be dead by 2050 if we don't get to zero emissions in 2030? I mean, that's what AOC was saying. We got 12 years to get zero. And then the number said, well, okay, 10%. And then, well, okay, 30%. And some people are now saying 50% less than what it is now by 2031. Right. Interesting how these politicians flip-flop because they don't know. They don't know how any of this works. They don't understand what is going on here. So here's another politician blurting out whatever he thinks might win. This is less money. This is a $5 trillion plan over 10 years. Guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. The reconstruction of the infrastructure, first of all, $5 trillion isn't even a down payment for the state of New York. Point blank. Point blank. I can only imagine what it would cost in Texas, in Florida, in Georgia, in North Carolina, California. We'll give them a little credit. They're halfway there because their Nazi leaders out there have forced folks in California to install solar panels on their brand new house. If they were building a house, it was mandated that you have to put solar panels on there. Who cares if the technology fails? You have to have it anyway. You have to spend that, and then you'll get a tax credit. But what you're supposed to do with that tax credit money is you're supposed to keep it in a spot where if your batteries fail or your power wall fails or your panels fail, you have this tax credit money that you could just go out and buy a new one. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, you can go to the whole thing, CNN, if you really can stomach their website. But here's what they want to do. Re-enter the Paris Agreement. Again, that's the same thing the Democrats want. They want even a more ambitious global plan for 2030 and beyond. So they want a more ambitious global... I'm confused. First it was 2050. Now it's 2030. Which is it, guys? Reduce methane leakage from existing sources. Strengthen clean air and hazardous waste. Limits for power plants. Fuel economy standards. Okay. Strengthen clean air. Hazardous waste limits for power plants. That's fine. That's fine. That helps keep our drinking water and our breathing air clean. I'm fine with that. That's the only thing about this that I don't question. But a good point at the end. One question, Beto. If you end tax breaks for fossil fuel companies and hike up royalty and compliance costs, because that's what they want to do. That's what Beto wants to do as well. Won't they simply pass the additional cost straight on to the consumers, causing economically damaging spike in consumer fuel and energy bills? Indeed they would. Indeed they would. You know they would. We just talked about at the beginning of the show of food and fuel being more expensive. It is all very well investing in innovation, but maybe you should hold off pushing up the price of fossil fuel until that innovation investment yields a viable and affordable alternative. So bottom line is okay, kid, good ideas, but let's make sure the technology can support what we're actually going for here. Okay, less human emissions, cleaner drinking water, and cleaner breathing air. I get it. I'm for that. But until these guys get real analysts and experts to talk about these policies, they won't understand. And they're not going to be able to put a dollar sign on any of this until they understand what exactly is happening right now. And then when they realize that, okay, so man isn't causing this. This is all natural. So we need to invest in things that are going to help us prep. We need to invest into land that we could use to farm on that we usually don't farm on. We need to use money like that to invest in shelters, indoor vertical growing centers. There's so much we could do with $5 trillion. Infrastructure rebuilding is definitely the best idea in this whole Green New Deal. The only thing I don't like about it is fitting it for solar and wind power resources. That'll never work. Not right now. Not with the current technology. I'm not saying in 20 years from now we don't figure out a battery situation. We don't have 20 years, obviously, but I'm just saying at this pace, you would think it's going to take that long to see affordable and valuable alternative energy. And right now, we don't have it. I like hydro. I think, I hear there's a lot of waste in hydro as well. There's a lot of there's pros and cons in every source of alternative energy, whether it's oil, natural gas, hydro, coal, solar, wind. We know the worst parts about solar and wind. The part I love about coal now is that coal produces CO2, and now scientists are figuring out how to change CO2 into coal. So talk about a cheap source of energy. If you could renew it like that, they used to be able to convert the CO2 into coal at very high temperatures. Now scientists have figured out how to make this transfer at room temperature. They don't need the high temperatures they used to need to achieve this accomplishment. The technology is getting better. We're going to figure it out. But we can't do anything to start or stop this, guys. Don't let any politician, even Trump, we're not stopping this. But what we can do is prepare for it. And what we can do is be smart about the money that we are spending on infrastructure. Instead of putting up a solar panel, let's put up areas that we can have community gardens, or invest into buildings that once were empty warehouses and turn them into growth centers for indoor vertical growing. There's all kinds of infrastructure, new sewer lines, street lights, power poles. I mean, look, this year alone, we've seen a lot of moisture, all right? And there's been several reports throughout the year where several phone poles, hundreds at a time, will collapse and fall over because the ground's saturated and the wind gets blowing, and the force of the wind and the saturated grounds allows these phone poles to tumble like dominoes. Scary. All right, let's continue on climate news. Dr. Roy Spencer, who we think highly of here at the Grand Solar Minimum. And here we have our temperature readings for April 2019. And we are up a tenth of a degree Celsius above baseline. And I'm sure all you out there, you AGW, are jumping up and down, throwing popcorn at the screen right now. It's warming. Look, it's warming. No, look. It's climbing down in the natural process that this happens at. Let me get my handy dandy arrow out. Let's point this out real quick, folks. Here we have the peak, 2016, 2017, 18, 2019. Will we see it go up a little bit more? Maybe. Maybe. But look at the pattern of this, guys. Does this trend make it look like to you that it's just going to all of a sudden go right back up and stair step up? I mean, look back at this graph and you tell me where that we've had any kind of activity like this on our graph that shows that all of a sudden, out of a decline, like even here, straight down, 1, 2, 3, and then had a fourth one, and then we'd had another dip, and then we go slowly back up, and then kind of slowly back down, and then we go up, and then we go down, and then we keep seeing these peaks right here. But the trend is, this was higher, this was a little bit lower, and this one's a little bit lower, and what? Let me guess, by October, we'll be averaging somewhere right here. Probably. If we have to go on trends here, we go on precipitation that has a cooling effect with all the cloud coverage thanks to the cosmic rays seeding our atmosphere, producing cloud nucleation. Yeah, we're going to get hot in June, July, and August. I'm sure we're going to have reports on heat wave and drought in parts of the world. But the question is, how long is this going to last? Winter is hanging on for a lot of spots right now. So am I panicked when I see a report like this from Dr. Roy Spencer? And if you understand, well, even if you don't understand, you could still read patterns and look at graphs. And we're clearly still continuing to fall slowly. As I said, 3 years is not a lot of time to observe information like this. It's not fair to make one perception of what's happening. But if you do read these graphs, if you do understand charts, you can clearly see why us and thousands of other scientists agree that our climate is slowly cooling. It takes time, folks. It's not going to be an overnight. When you spread this out over the last 3 years, it continues to peak and drop, peak and drop. Maybe we're due for another a little bit more of a peak right here, and then we start to see temperatures dropping again. And October-ish, November-ish could be here. Some think that we'll plateau again and keep this average through 2019 and 2020. Look, obviously you guys know I'm a firm believer in solar cycles. And I'm a firm believer that the sun is the main driver of the climate. And I'm a firm believer that less solar activity leads to cooler temperatures. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
Sorry about that, folks. So here we back are talking about this cyclone Fanny, tropical cyclone Fanny. Sorry about the audio there, guys. Appreciate the patience. More than 800,000 residents have been evacuated Thursday in low-lying areas of northeastern India. Says here, the Times reported that we had almost 1 million people evacuated. This is ahead of a Category 4 equivalent cyclone churning towards the coast of Bay of Bengal. Thousands of disaster management personnel were sent to the state of Odisha in northeastern India, home to about 46 million people, with scores of residents live in mud and thatch homes in low-lying areas. We are making the best efforts to inform them about cyclone and move these vulnerable people to cyclone shelters. Again, we're talking about low-lying houses and made of mud and sticks. Country's Coast Guard tweeted that it was broadcasting radio announcements in several native languages from an airplane, and that it had deployed 4 ships and 34 disaster relief teams. India's Navy, Air Force, and Army were also on standby for assistance, and fishermen in the Bay of Bengal were warned to stay out of threatened areas. So another large cyclone that we're watching here on the other side of the planet. We just got done with a Cat 4 Kenneth. Now we have a Cat 4 in India, and her name is Fanny. Moving right along here as we get to the United States. Severe thunderstorms, flooding, rainfall, what we talked about earlier on Watchers.news. And the Weather Channel, once again, is reiterating that we are going to be watching severe weather through tonight. This is 8:40, the last time we had this. Oh, really? Anybody looking for a new truck? Weather.com says get a Ford.
But a Ford.
All right, thank you, Ford, for paying the bills for us all. Here's our watches boxes here as of 8:40 Central Time. At least 2 quick EF tornadoes, 0 tornadoes have been confirmed in Pulaski County, Arkansas. Additional surveys will be done on Friday. Check out this damage here from Twitter. The South is just getting pummeled, guys. Trees down, damage to buildings, debris everywhere. And this was an EF0. We'll find out how strong this was when they get out and do their full analysis. This threat of severe weather and heavy rain is along a slow-moving front, which has spawned damaging storms since the beginning of this week. Here's a look at what's to expect through Friday. So we got the severe possibilities for Friday night. Texas, Austin, Houston, Corpus Christi, Del Rio, Midland, Fort Worth, Shreveport in Louisiana, that is. And then the severe threat in the Atlantic states, northeastern Kentucky, West Virginia, parts of northern Virginia, and southern Pennsylvania, D.C. area also on the watch out Forecast for rain through Friday, not a lot. For the most of the country, we're talking about less than an inch. But when you're in Texas, central Texas, through Friday night, there is a possibility of 3 to 5 inches just outside of San Antonio and just north of Houston, about 1 to 2 inches. Localized heavier spots of rain are possible. Here is what we're talking about. This is great drone footage. Check out these down power lines. 20 down by high winds. Eureka, Kansas airport, and was blown off of Highway 169 near Greeley, Kansas, injuring the driver. Look at these now some of them are snapped. Look at that. Would you look at that? Just look at it. Again, these poles are falling. Obviously, the high winds with the pressure and the saturation of these of the grounds, how much rain we've seen, how much snow we've seen. It's incredible footage. Monday evening golf ball. So this is 29th. Golf ball to egg size was reported. West Texas. It's been a busy week out here. Here's Tuesday. 31 ports of tornadoes. We now know that was 33. More damage. May 1st, yesterday, here we go. 3.5 inches in diameter of hail reported near McGurk, Texas. And of course, right now we are watching the threat of severe weather making its way through. And let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS outlook. A lot of people are like, why do you trust the GFS? I don't trust any of them. But it gives us an idea, and so far, the GFS has not been terribly off, especially when it's come to this spring so far with moisture. But taking a look through Friday, that setup down there in the south is just going to continue to get worse. Rain chances multiple times over the next several days in the south, and of course the Midwest as well, Oklahoma, Ohio, and the Northeast. These low pressure systems are gaining momentum into the 9th of May. The Northeast will also get inundated, and the South continues to get pummeled. Here we are, May 10th, another storm moving across the region. May 11th, another one forms in the back. Low pressure system coming up through Mexico, through central Texas once again. So we're going to be talking about some flooding here and along the area of the Mississippi River, and that stationary front still continues to wreak havoc. This system moves out of the northeast on the 12th, and then look at the May 13th. Same areas of heavy rain and moisture going through the same spots, almost the same exact path. Every storm starts here, moves up through here, goes in the northeast, or starts here and moves across the south. So we're seeing two paths of moisture, of constant moisture, if you ask me, over the next several days, according to this GFS outlook. And more rain producing behind it. This is the fourth major system moving through the northeast. And look at that, Saturday, May 18th. Again, we are looking at the potential of another system setting up over central Texas. The flooding through May, they were not lying about this, guys. 24-hour accumulated precipitation. This is through, actually, this goes all the way per day. I don't want that. I want the, bear with me, folks. It's not snow. We don't have any more snow. I'll find it someday. So this is the outlook. Check this out. This is all I got to say. So in the next 16 days, parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas are going to see around possibly 20 inches of rain in localized areas. The average is going to be between 8 and 14 inches. You guys can see it right here. I'm not making this up. This is bad news right here, guys. Not a good time of year either. This is planting season for these farmers down here. So first part of spring, Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota, you guys got hammered with floods. Now it's their turn down here. So we've had two battle zones, one in the northern plains and now in the deep south. And guys, look into the northeast. That's still quite a bit of rain, guys. Anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain in upstate New York and parts of the northeast. Ohio, close to 5 inches of rain. Kentucky, you're definitely getting 5 to 6 inches of rain. So we're talking about even 5 to 6 inches of rain, guys, is still a month's worth of rain for some of these areas in just a week or two. Lots to talk about. I'm pretty sure we will have a lot of farming report going on for next week and in the following week as well. When you see how much rain, I mean, guys, this map is ridiculous if you ask me. Like, this is where we are today, going into Friday, and this is how much rainfall we are going to see over the next 16 days accumulated. That's a very, very, very soggy United States right there, folks. And I know it's the rainy season, but my goodness. And the other thing I don't like here, check this out. In the Sierra Nevada region, maybe I'll move the arrow instead of the whole screen. Right here, heavy amounts of rain, melting temperatures. We got to watch this area for floods and levees to fail. So records amount of precipitation for the Northeast for the month of April, and it looks like May is going to continue to be moderate to heavy precipitation. But the people we really got to look out for, guys, here near Houston, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Shreveport possibly can get in on this really heavy rain. But these guys here, we're getting at least 10 inches of rain. And that's a big area of 10 inches of rain in 16 days. That's going to be more than enough surplus for sure on precipitation. So we might have had a long cold winter, and we might have had a wild winter, but spring and summer, right now the current rate of precipitation is mind-blowing in my opinion, not just here in the United States but all over the world. You see the El Nino temperatures. It's funny because this graph, this color chart, shows us that it looks like we're warming up a little bit in the 3-4 region. Now, there has been a sudden increase in temperatures to back that up on the 3-4 index. Check out the North Atlantic. We are heading into the cold phase, and it's showing that as well, as we are below baseline on the temperatures here in early May as well. And that's really all I have for tonight. Actually, guys, that's going to wrap up our report. I do have Mari standing by and was wanting to know if she had anything she'd like to add and say hello to the chat out there. But how's it going, Mar?
It is going wonderful. Hello to everyone in the chat. We have been talking about prepping. I've seen some old faces and some new. So it's been pretty interesting. The current topic right now is Al Gore.
Go figure.
I shared the shirt I made. I'm proud of that.
Milai?
You know, I actually spent time
in Milai one?
Yeah, I actually spent
Milai?
I spent time elongating his nose and everything to look like Pinocchio. It just, every time I see it, it cracks me up. So I dropped the link in the chat because people always like a laugh. And one person was like, you know, where is he these days? And one person said...
Do you want to see Al Gore's current mood?
What? Oh, paper bag head.
That's pretty much how Al Gore feels about
dear.
global warming right now. He's sad.
Jeez. Well, one person said that he's on an iceberg floating away somewhere. And my guess is that, you know, he is just, you know, a polar bear ate him.
Maybe.
Just, you know, because the polar bears are thriving and they're hungry.
He's being super cereal, guys. He's cereal.
So, we got some weird, you know, conversations. People wearing their tin hats. There's some weird topics in the chat. I'm not going to comment on them, but hey, it's a part of this wonderful culture online, G.
Sure, I guess.
Planet X stuff, you know? Like,
oh, boy.
I don't buy into that. I debunk Planet X, so I'm sorry.
Pretty much.
Sorry for the Planet Xers out there.
Sorry for the boogers on the lens.
Anyway, I really appreciate all of you here. Lady T has her potatoes sprouting even more. And I was just talking about how Lily was asking me for seeds the other day and planting. She wants to plant potatoes as well. So she's excited. The new place we are, we have plenty of property to plant, and we're going to be starting that really soon and sharing that also online. I'll post some pictures.
Great.
So that's all I got, Jake.
All right.
Keep it easy for you. Oh, we also discussed in the chat the brilliant interview that we have.
Oh, yes.
We're going to be premiering that tomorrow with Radiant creators.
Craig was a great host, I might add.
Really fun interview covering like GSM 101 type topics.
Basic stuff.
Basics. Yep. Plus a little bit of insight on Jake and Murray and what we're passionate about, you know. And then our
Saturday
presentation on Saturday. Yep. Definitely don't miss
Scott
it. If you're looking for great information to share and, you know, educate others on the topic, your friends and family, these are the type of programs you're going to want to tune into and share.
I'm going to add to that what Mari just said. I can't stress it. Tomorrow night and Saturday night are going to be one of the probably the best 2 nights of content this channel's ever done, as far as people who need a firm understanding of the basics of the grand solar minimum. Like Mari said, Friday night we're talking about an interview that talks to me and Mari about our passion, of what brought us into this, and just a little basic stuff. And then Saturday night we kind of get to the meat of the bone with Scott Chapman. He'll give us a rundown of his version of how things are happening and the ideas that can only come from shows like these two that are coming up. This is why we do this, to get this message out. So we hope you guys will tune in Friday and Saturday night this week. This is something that if you have family and friends who question why you follow the topic you follow, these next 2 shows are going to help them understand the basics and the science of what's going on with their worldwide climate. So that being said, guys, we'll be available in the chat tomorrow night. It'll be a recorded interview that will be played out live. Mari and I will premiere that tomorrow night, so we'll be excited. I'll get to join everyone in the chat. I'm sure you'll be excited for that. Anyway, guys, until then, have a great evening, and we will talk soon. Take care, guys.